They walk away when love feels too close. They shut down when emotions rise too high. They vanish when you thought things were finally safe. And yet, there is one person they can't walk away from. One person who breaks through the walls. One person who stays etched in their nervous system, long after everyone else fades. Who is it? And what makes this bond so unshakable? That's what we're about to uncover. Why avoidants rarely bond deeply. To understand the one person an avoidant bonds with forever, we first need to understand why they don't bond deeply with most. On the surface, avoidants look like people who just prefer space. They look like they don't need intimacy the way others do. They seem content being alone. But the truth is different. It's not that avoidants don't want love. It's that love feels dangerous. When they were young, closeness didn't feel safe. It often felt overwhelming. Sometimes it even felt like a trap. Maybe their caregiver was emotionally unpredictable. Maybe love came with conditions. Maybe affection was rare. So rare that their nervous system stopped reaching for it. Over time, their brain wired itself for survival, not closeness. They learned, if I depend too much, I'll be let down. If I get too close, I'll lose myself. If I show my needs, I'll be rejected. So they built walls, invisible walls that protect their heart, but also keep love out. Let's get real about what those walls look like. An avoidant will pull back when things get intense, downplay their feelings, distract themselves with work, hobbies, or anything that keeps them busy. Choose partners who chase, so they never have to. Keep conversations light, avoiding the deeper emotional currents. It's not because they don't feel, it's because they feel too much, and those feelings terrify them. Imagine love as fire. To most people, warmth feels safe. To an avoidant, warmth feels like it might burn them alive. So they keep their distance. They touch the fire just enough to stay human, but never long enough to risk the flames. This is why avoidants rarely bond deeply. Their nervous system is always on alert. Their body associates closeness with danger. And because of this, even if they want intimacy, they sabotage it. They run. They hide. They disconnect. And so, most relationships with an avoidant feel like a dance of almosts. Almost connected, almost safe, almost bonded, but never quite there. Here's the heartbreaking part. Deep down, avoidants crave the same thing everyone else does. To be seen, to be loved, to feel safe enough to melt into someone's arms. But because of their wiring, they deny themselves that experience. They tell themselves, I'm better off alone. No one really gets me. Love just isn't worth the cost. And yet, somewhere in the shadows of their heart, a quiet longing never goes away. They ache for someone who won't demand, but also won't leave. Someone who won't overwhelm them, but also won't disappear. Someone who can sit with their silence, without mistaking it for rejection. That person is rare, but when they find them, the avoidant bonds forever. But why only that one person? And what makes them so different from everyone else? The hidden traits of the one person who breaks through. Not everyone can break through the walls of an avoidant. Many try. Most fail. They give affection. They demand closeness. They try to love the avoidant into opening up. But instead of bringing them closer, it pushes the avoidant further away. So what makes the one person different? Why does the avoidant bond with them when they've pushed everyone else out? The first trait is patience without pressure. This person doesn't rush the avoidant. They don't demand constant reassurance. They don't push for immediate intimacy. Instead, they move at the avoidant's pace. Slow, steady, respectful of space. This patience feels like oxygen to the avoidant. Because for the first time, they don't feel like they're suffocating under someone else's need. And paradoxically, the more space they're given, the more the avoidant starts to come closer. The second trait is emotional steadiness. Avoidants grew up in environments that felt unpredictable. One day love was there, the next day it vanished. One moment safe, the next moment chaos. So when they meet someone steady, someone who doesn't explode in anger or collapse in despair, it feels like relief. This steadiness calms their nervous system. It shows them closeness doesn't have to mean chaos. Love doesn't have to feel like danger. And because of that, the avoidant starts to let their guard down. The third trait is respect for independence. This is huge. Avoidants fear that closeness will erase them, that love will come at the cost of freedom. So when someone tries to merge too tightly, they panic. But the one person who bonds with them forever knows how to love without smothering. They understand the avoidant's need for space, and they don't take it personally. Instead of chasing, they stand steady. Instead of demanding, they invite. They show the avoidant that love and freedom can coexist. And that changes everything. The fourth trait is deep empathy without judgment. Avoidants carry shame. They often feel like something is wrong with them, that they're too cold, too distant, too incapable of love. So when someone meets them with compassion instead of criticism, it feels revolutionary. This person doesn't say, "Why can't you just open up?" They say, "I see why this is hard for you, and I'm here." That empathy tells the avoidant, "You're not broken, you're human, and your pace is okay." That message seeps deeper than words. It touches the core of their defenses, and defenses soften in the presence of acceptance. The fifth trait is authentic self-assurance. Avoidants test people without meaning to. They withdraw to see if you'll collapse. They go silent to see if you'll explode. They pull back to see if you'll chase. Most people fail these unspoken tests. They get insecure. They push harder. They make the avoidant feel trapped. But the one person who bonds forever doesn't collapse. They stay grounded. They don't beg. They don't bargain. They don't lose themselves trying to hold on. Instead, they quietly communicate, "I want you, but I don't need to cage you." And that balance is magnetic. It draws the avoidant closer because it's safe. Here's the secret. The one person an avoidant bonds with forever isn't the loudest. They're not the most dramatic. They're not the one who pushes hardest for love. They're the one who offers love in a way that feels safe. Patience, steadiness, respect, empathy, self-assurance. These are the keys that unlock the avoidant's heart. Not pressure, not pleading, not chasing. Because the avoidance walls were built to survive. But with the right person, those walls don't need to stay up forever. And when those walls start to come down, something extraordinary happens. How the bond forms beneath their walls. The bond doesn't happen overnight. With an avoidant, nothing does. Their walls are high. Their defenses are strong. Their fear of closeness is deep. But slowly, almost invisibly at first, the bond begins to form. It starts in the smallest ways. The avoidant doesn't share much about themselves. But one day, they tell a small story from their childhood. Just a glimpse. And the other person listens. No judgment. No interrogation. Just presence. That moment plants a seed. It tells the avoidant, "Maybe I can share more." The next stage comes with trust and consistency. Avoidants are wired to expect people to leave, or to change, or to become unsafe. But when this person shows up again and again, calm, steady, predictable, the avoidant begins to test less. They don't have to watch for the sudden shift. They don't have to prepare for abandonment every second. For the first time, their body learns. Maybe closeness isn't always danger. The bond deepens in silence. Avoidants hate pressure. They hate forced conversations. They hate the demand. Tell me everything you're feeling right now. But the right person doesn't force. They let silence exist. They sit in it, comfortably. And in that quiet, the avoidant feels something rare, safe enough to relax. Not every bond is made in words. Sometimes it's formed in the peace of not needing them. Then comes the stage of mirroring safety. The avoidant watches closely, not what you say, but how you live. They notice how you handle stress. They notice if you lose yourself in relationships. They notice if you respect boundaries. And when they see that you stay grounded, that you're not ruled by fear or chaos, it changes something inside them. Because avoidants don't trust words. They trust patterns. They trust what you consistently show. Here's where the bond quietly transforms. The avoidant begins to initiate. At first, it's subtle. They send a message. They ask to meet up. They let you into a detail of their life. It may not look like much, but for an avoidant, it's monumental. Because when they choose to reach out, it means they feel safe enough to risk closeness. That risk is the beginning of true intimacy. The bond also forms through shared experiences without pressure, not grand gestures, not constant declarations of love, but everyday moments. A walk together, cooking dinner, sitting side by side doing nothing. These moments teach the avoidant. Love doesn't always have to hurt. It can just exist. Every safe experience adds another layer, another crack in the armor. The turning point often comes when the avoidant faces a moment of vulnerability. It could be stress. It could be illness. It could be a personal struggle they can't control. Normally, they would withdraw. They would shut everyone out. They would handle it alone. But this time, they let the one person in, even if it's small, even if it's just saying, "Today was hard." It matters, because the avoidant doesn't hand over their struggle to just anyone. That trust is sacred. Over time, the avoidant begins to relax in ways they didn't know were possible. They laugh more. They stay present longer. They don't plan their escape. They start imagining a future, not just with themselves, but with someone else beside them. That's huge, because avoidants are masters of living in self-protection. But when they let someone into their vision of tomorrow, it means their bond has crossed from survival into love. And here's the irony. The avoidant may never say, "You're the one I'll bond with forever." They don't need to. You'll know it in their actions. They'll show it in the way they share their inner world, in the way they reach for you even after pulling away, in the way they choose to stay, not out of fear, but out of trust. That's the avoidance version of forever. But here's the deeper truth, and it's what makes this bond so rare. The avoidant doesn't just connect with anyone patient, or anyone kind, or anyone steady. They connect with the person who reflects back the love they never got. Without demanding they heal overnight. That's why it feels permanent. Because this isn't just attraction. It's nervous system recognition. Their body learns. This is safe. This is real. This is where I can rest. And once their body learns that, it doesn't forget. That's how the bond forms beneath their walls. Quietly. Slowly, layer by layer. It's not a love story of fireworks. It's a love story of safety. And for the avoidant, that kind of love isn't just rare. It's unforgettable. Why they can't let that person go, even if they try. Avoidants are known for leaving, for pulling back, for cutting ties when closeness feels too much. But when it comes to the one person they bond with, something changes. Even if they walk away, even if they go silent, even if they try to convince themselves they don't care, they can't fully let go. Here's why. The avoidance nervous system is wired for survival. It tells them to protect themselves at all costs, to keep people at a distance, to rely only on themselves. But the rare bond they form, it bypasses their defenses. It creates safety their body didn't know was possible. And once the body knows safety, it remembers. It craves it. It doesn't unlearn it. This is what makes the bond permanent. Even if the avoidant leaves, they compare every new connection to that one safe person. No one else feels the same. No one else feels as grounding. They may try to replace it, distract themselves, convince themselves it wasn't real. But deep down, they know it was different. It mattered, and nothing quite matches it. Why can't they detach fully? Because this bond rewrote their blueprint. For most of their life, relationships felt like threat. Love felt like suffocation. Closeness felt like a trap. But with this person, they learned another truth. Love can coexist with freedom. Closeness can coexist with safety. Connection can exist without losing yourself. That's life-changing for an avoidant. It's not something they can just walk away from. Even when they try to, they carry it with them. They carry it in their memories. They carry it in the way their body relaxes at a familiar scent, or when they hear a phrase that person used to say. They carry it in their moments of loneliness, when they realize that with everyone else, they still feel alone. But with that person, even silence felt like company. This is why avoidants often circle back. It's not just about missing someone. It's about missing the one space where they didn't feel trapped. The one connection that broke their cycle of avoidance. They may leave, but they struggle to stay gone. Because every attempt at connection afterward feels incomplete. It feels shallow. It feels unsafe. And their nervous system longs to return to what it once trusted. Here's the paradox. Avoidants are terrified of dependence. But with this person, they experience the one kind of dependence that doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like balance. It feels like partnership. It feels like finally being able to rest. So even if they walk away in fear, they're tied by something stronger than fear. Recognition. The recognition that this person saw them fully and didn't run. That kind of memory clings. It roots itself deep. Sometimes they try to bury it. They distract themselves with work. They lose themselves in surface-level flings. They hide in independence. No matter how much they try to cover it, that bond doesn't die. It waits. It lingers. And at night, when they're alone, it returns, not as fantasy, but as the one place their soul ever truly rested. The avoidant's greatest fear is loss of self, but their greatest longing is connection. With most people, those two collide. They feel like they must choose freedom or love. But with this person, they finally experienced both. And that is why they can't truly let go. Because they can't unlive what it felt like to be free and connected at the same time. It becomes the standard by which all other connections are measured, and nothing else quite measures up. That's also why the avoidant often looks colder than they are. On the outside, they may act like they've moved on. They may seem detached. They may even convince themselves they don't care. But beneath the surface, they hold on to that bond quietly. Silently, relentlessly, because for the avoidant, real bonds aren't many. They're rare, they're precious, they're forever. And here's the final truth. The avoidant doesn't stay tied because they're weak. They stay tied because, for once in their life, someone reached the part of them they thought no one could. The part beneath the armor, the part beneath the defenses, the part that longed for love, but didn't know how to ask for it. That person reached it. And that's why the avoidant can't truly let go. Because deep down, they don't want to. That's why the bond lasts. Why they come back. Why even when they try to run, they never really escape. Because it wasn't just a relationship. It was a homecoming. And home isn't something you forge. What it means to be the one they bond with forever. Being the one an avoidant bonds with isn't ordinary. It isn't casual, and it isn't temporary. It's life-changing for them and for you. Here's the paradox. To the outside world, the avoidant looks like they can detach easily. They look like they can walk away without scars. They look like they don't need anyone. But when you are that one person, the truth is completely different. You're not just someone they liked. You're not just someone they loved. You're the exception that broke the rule. And exceptions stay. What does it mean for you? It means you occupy a place in their inner world no one else can. A place they didn't even know existed until you showed up. You became proof that intimacy doesn't have to suffocate. That closeness doesn't have to kill freedom. That love doesn't have to feel like control. You shattered their blueprint. And once it's shattered, it can't be rebuilt the same. But here's the hard truth. Being that person is not easy. It comes with weight. It comes with challenges. It comes with responsibility. Because when an avoidant bonds with you, you trigger their deepest fears alongside their deepest longings. They may run. They may push you away. They may test your patience in ways no one else has. Not because you're not enough, but because you mean too much. So what does it mean to be the one? It means being unforgettable. It means that no matter what, they will always circle back to the thought of you, even if they don't say it, even if they don't show it, even if they pretend it's not true. You live inside them, quietly, permanently. And here's something few people realize. Avoidants don't trust easily. They don't let people in lightly. They don't give that bond to just anyone. So if they gave it to you, it wasn't by accident. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't replaceable. It was deliberate, even if it happened unconsciously. And that's why it sticks. But let's talk about the cost. Being the one they bond with forever can feel heavy, because sometimes you may feel the pull of their fear, the hot and cold cycles, the push and pull, the distance that hurts. You may feel like you're carrying both of your hearts, yours and theirs. And at times, you may question if it's worth it, if the bond is worth the pain. Here's the gift though. When avoidants finally recognize what you mean, when they finally surrender to the truth of the bond, they love with a loyalty that is unshakable. They may not love in the loudest way. They may not shower you with constant words, but they love in the kind of way that endures, the kind of way that doesn't fade, the kind of way that survives time, distance, silence. Because for them, this bond is not just emotional. It's primal. It's survival level. You became safety, and safety is unforgettable. So what happens when you're the one? You become the person they measure all others against, the one they compare every connection to, the one who set the standard. Others may come, others may go, but no one feels quite like you, because no one else broke through their walls. No one else reached the part of them they thought was unreachable. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't just leave an imprint on their mind. You leave it on their nervous system, on their body, on their very sense of self. They learned safety with you. They learned intimacy doesn't have to hurt. They learned love doesn't have to cost freedom. That rewires them forever. That bonds them to you in ways they can't undo. But let's not romanticize it too much. Being that one person is powerful, but it doesn't mean you should tolerate pain endlessly. It doesn't mean you should lose yourself trying to hold the bond together. The truth is, the avoidant must also choose. They must choose to nurture the bond, to honor it, to grow with it. Because while the bond may be forever, the relationship is only alive if it's cared for. So what does it mean for you? It means knowing your worth. It means remembering that even if they bonded with you deeply, you are not responsible for carrying all the weight alone. It means holding space, yes, but also setting boundaries. Because healthy love requires both. And here's the secret. An avoidant respects boundaries more than anything, because boundaries remind them love doesn't equal control, and that safety is real. So if you are the one they bond with forever, you will always matter, even if they don't say it, even if they try to hide it, even if they disappear for a while. You will always be the one that lingers in their silence, the one they remember in their solitude, the one they can't erase. Because you weren't just love, you were freedom within love. And that combination doesn't die. And now, here's where I'll leave you with this thought. If you've ever wondered why they come back, why they can't let go, why even in their silence, you feel them, it's because you were never just anyone. You were the exception. You were the forever. And that is a bond they will carry, not just for a season, not just for a chapter, but for life. If this touched you, if you've seen yourself in these words, or felt the pull of a bond you can't explain, remember you're not alone. And remember this, your presence has power, your connection leaves impact, and your story deserves to be heard. So share your thoughts below, because your voice may be the one that helps someone else finally feel understood.